Oh my god, what am I doing? Hi, welcome to Just Thinking Out Loud. This video is my response to the class action lawsuit that's been filed by James Damore and his ex-colleague David Goodman against Google. I am absolutely elated that this is happening. I am so glad that people are finally pushing back against this in an actual meaningful way, not just following people on social media quietly and coming over to YouTube and abandoning places like Facebook where it's completely infested by that's not a good word, infested by liberals. I was in the middle of preparing this video and then I came across something that made me feel so sick. I just wanted to put it here first. So I'm not far along in reading the case and I came across a section about anti-conservative postings, and I came across this post by this woman named Jennifer Messerly that says, reminder that sidetracking diversity efforts with complaints about bias against anti-diversity beliefs is harmful to precisely the minority groups we're trying to make feel safe and included. If we're going to have any success in creating a safe environment for minorities here, then we must reject anti-diversity beliefs/efforts. If you need help letting go of those beliefs, there's a lot written inside the company about our diversity programs, how they work, what they're about, why they matter. There's also trainings to help. So, I don't know this lady. I assume she has some nice qualities because everybody's not either good or bad. But I can tell you that I feel really disgusted reading this because she's assuming that all minorities will feel a certain way about what she thinks. And I know that I can't speak for anybody else. I can't speak for women. I can't speak for Black people. I can't speak for immigrants. I can only speak for Desi-Rae because that's who I am and I'm an individual. But this kind of stuff makes me really uncomfortable. So Jennifer Messerly, if you ever watch this, you're not really helping. You're only helping people who think like you, okay? And this isn't gonna make me feel safe and included. And I don't need to feel safe and included. That's something you need to feel that you're giving to other people, but not everybody is looking for that when they go to our workplace. It just feels gross to me that you assume that I need your help. Or that I want it. Like, maybe I don't want it. It's also like people aren't even aware that people have no choice over these groups and that they may not even identify with them, especially people who are not from the United States. And the immigrant population in the US has gotten pretty big, which some people are concerned about. So it's kind of weird that nobody's thinking about things like that. I'm not going to get into the details of the lawsuit in this video. You can read it for yourself. I'm going to leave a link in the description. You can also go and watch my first video on the topic called the Google Diversity Memo to find out more about it. The lawsuit itself basically goes into who James Damore is and also his colleague, and then what they were doing at Google, and then how it came about that he released his memo, which was very interesting, and why he felt so much pressure to say something, because he felt that what Google was doing in its efforts to increase diversity in its company was wrong morally in his mind, as well as it was illegal. And he also felt that there were better ways to achieve the goals that they were trying to achieve. And he was also very concerned about the anti-conservative discrimination within the company and the discrimination against white males and Caucasian males and conservatives. For the conservative part, it was explicit bias. And then for the part about being Caucasian, it was implicit bias because they were so strongly trying to treat people who were minorities who were either not Asian or white differently in order to help them, especially in their hiring practices. The best part about it was documentation. I just came across this funny bit with the header, Google even attempted to stifle conservative parenting styles. Google furnishes a large number of internal mailing lists catering to employees with alternative lifestyles, including furries, polygamy, transgenderism, and plurality. for the purpose of discussing sexual topics. The only lifestyle that seems to not be openly discussed on Google's internal forums is traditional heterosexual monogamy. Someone made this comment: if I had a child, I would teach him or her traditional gender roles and patriarchy from a very young age. That's the hardest thing to fix later, and our degenerate society constantly pushes the wrong message. Google HR stated, "We did not find that this post on its face violated any of Google's policies, but your choice of words could suggest that you were advocating for a system in which men work outside the home and women do not, or that you were advocating for rigid adherence to gender identity at birth. We trust that neither is what you intended to say." The first part of this, that response from Google, reminds me of that interview that Jordan Peterson just did with Kathy Newman, where they're putting words in the person's mouth. And then the latter bit, "we trust that neither is what you intended to say," is just saying, well, you can't have your opinion if you want to work here. We are providing you with this feedback so that you can better understand how some Googlers interpreted your statements, and so that you are better equipped to ensure that Google is a place in which all Googlers are able to reach their full potential. In other words, Google scolded the Google employee for, among other things, believing that gender identity is set at birth biologically, a position held by the vast majority of the world's populace. That's so true. That Google professes to serve. I kind of want to say something about all of these topics. I grew up in a country that was very intolerant to a lot of non-traditional things. And I really admired, I guess, the US, or places like the US, that allowed people to be themselves. But this is taking it to the point of being authoritarian and being intolerant. And it's really strange to watch, being someone who came from the outside, who has seen the opposite of that, the other side, where people claim to be trying to defend now had to hide and were in shame. And I'm coming here and I'm seeing the exact same thing, but they're so blind to it. What I'm trying to say is that there is some good. There is like a little nugget of good in where these things are coming from, but then it's being taken way too far. And the other thing I want to say is that for you conservatives, or people who hold these kinds of views, which I think I am included, even though I would not call myself conservative, nobody can stand up for you as well as you can stand up for yourself. That's why I am so excited about this lawsuit. I don't know what will happen or if they will win, but the fact that someone is doing it now, I sincerely hope that it will inspire people to do the same, because I think that that is really needed, and I hope that it's a turning point for what's happening in society today. If you're sick of identity politics, I know it's really hard to confront your friends. It's hard for me too, but you should not let it cross a certain line. Like, these people are literally being unlawful and discriminating based on the idea that they are actually helping people who they feel are being discriminated against, even though they don't really have proof for it. The proof they have is in the numbers, which I've talked about many times. Just because you have different outcomes doesn't mean that people are being discriminated against. So I'm really hoping that this is the end of people trying to fight racism, perceived racism, and bigotry and sexism and homophobia and transphobia. A lot of these things were listed here, with more racism and sexism in order to achieve their goals, because it makes absolutely no sense. Also, their solutions are kind of just stupid, because you can't have a 50-50 if your graduates aren't 50-50. Like, it just doesn't make sense. On that point, I wanted to say that I have been looking into graduate programs that interest me, and I won't say exactly what, but I was checking out a school that's heavily involved in engineering, and I really like the school, and I like the people that I was talking to. And I was walking by a classroom, and there were many males. A lot of them were Asian males, and some of them were white, and there were other people too, but you could definitely see a majority of certain people. I believe this was the undergrad program, but I'm not sure. And I just have to ask, who is forcing all the minorities, the ones that they think should be included, which is not Asians and not white males, in tech? Who is stopping the other people from going and graduating from those programs or having those interests? I don't know who is doing that, but it's not the people at Google. And and it's not the people who want their products and want it to be delivered by people who are competent at what they are doing. So they shouldn't be feeling the brunt of that. And something I really have to say about these things is that they keep focusing on the end products. Why are you helping them when they reach the job market? Why aren't you helping them way before? Is it because their development is heavily influenced by things that would involve criticizing those people? I have to ask that because I think that's what's going on. Anyway, so I'm thinking about applying for this thing, and then I realized that I don't really know what to do because I don't want people to be looking at my application caring about that. I don't, but I can't do anything about it. I just have to like suck it up, and I really don't like it. It makes me really uncomfortable. So that's just my perspective, and I can only speak for myself because I'm an individual. So to conclude, to me, this is a pretty pivotal moment. I think this is about a few things. One of them being tech companies thinking that they can lay down the rule of law for everybody because everybody uses their services to get information, because they can't convince us with their very poor arguments. So they basically just try to tell us what to think. And if they can't shame us, then they'll try to manipulate what we're seeing in the world. But it won't work because people actually see the world differently, and that's something that these people at Google, based on all the evidence that he was showing off posts people were making, don't seem to understand that they also have a bias and that they're not seeing the world in the same way. And just because they see something a certain way, it doesn't mean that's the way it is. And so maybe they could be a bit more humble and understand that they're just one half of the equation, which is something that James Damore actually pointed out in his memo, that neither side is really right. It's just people, they're balancing each other out, but it's tipped so far in one direction, and people think that they can fight intolerance with more intolerance. How friggin' stupid is that? No, seriously, how stupid is that? But the worst part about this memo for me was thinking that you can legally discriminate against people. All of these identities should just be totally separate from law, and I think that Google should really be condemned. And I think that other companies that are behaving like this, of which I'm sure there are many, should be condemned. And I think that I would really like for my video to be urging people to do something similar to what Damore is doing and exposing this kind of stuff, but do it wisely, document things, don't just open your mouth, be smart about it. This is a huge deal to me. This is why I started my channel. I was just so sick of this shaming and silencing people and having people speak on my behalf. And I know we're not just individuals, but that is how people should be treated, especially in front of the law and in certain cases like this. Even though there might be, in the aggregate, similar characteristics, we are all individuals, and that's so obvious to me. One thing that would be great is if these companies could be very upfront about whether or not they have these quotas so that I can avoid them, because I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I actually feel very sorry for myself because I'm living in a society where people were indoctrinated to believe that this is how you help people, by lowering standards for them. And it's so gross, because can't you see you're not seeing me or someone like me as equal to you, and you think that that's the only way that you can help people. And it's so fake. It's very superficial. If you want to help people, really help them. Don't just like hand them something, like teach them how to fish, like get them to the point where they don't need your help at this stage that they're at the very end. I want to read my favorite quote from the lawsuit, which I believe was actually from the memo itself. I hope it's clear that I'm not saying that diversity is bad, that Google or society is 100% fair, that we shouldn't try to correct for existing biases, or that minorities have the same experience of those in the majority. My larger point is that we have an intolerance for ideas and evidence that don't fit a certain ideology. I'm also not saying that we should restrict people to certain gender roles. I'm advocating for quite the opposite. Treat people as individuals, not as just another member of their group. Tribalism, in brackets. Thank you for watching my video. I hope that I really spread the joy of what I'm feeling with you guys, even though I was criticizing what was happening a lot. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, please donate to the channel at justthinkingoutloud.tv/donate. I would really appreciate it, and thank you for all the people who already do that. Go and have a great day or night or week. Bye. These people are so full of themselves and they should get off of their high horses.